Hello, I'm Dean, and this is Dean's N-Scale Trains. In the last couple of my videos, I talked about designing my next railroad, which is going to be L-shaped. I call it the Santa Fe Northern. Today, I'm going to show you how I built this nice support. As you can see, it's very, very sturdy. It consists of 2x4 legs with 1x2 trim. It has a 2-inch base, which is solid enough to hold my N-scale trains. And this 1-inch foam will be cut up to support the rails, the track. As I said, it's very, very sturdy. It can be easily moved around, turned around. This will give you an idea of how it's braced. You can see the braces on the bottom. In the front, one thing I did is make it accessible underneath. I don't like to go underneath my layouts. I do it only when needed, which hopefully will be never, but if I ever have to, the front 2 sections are completely open and you can crawl under there and work, but it's still, the legs are still braced. So that's it. If you're planning a railroad and getting ready to build the baseboard, take a look at my video, even if you're not going to build my railroad. And I'll have a lot of helpful hints that will get you started and get you going. Thanks for watching. So today I'm going to show you how I built the 3 main components of my tabletop assembly. The first of these was built out of 2-inch Formular NGX foam, and after I cut the 2 pieces and joined them to give the L shape, I surrounded the whole thing with 1x2 wood supports. These were glued to the foam using liquid nails. The second one was a 1-inch foam out of NGX. 2 pieces were cut to form the L shape and glued together. And then they were held together with Scotch tape while it dried. Finally, I built the table support with 2x4 legs and 1x2 strips, holding it together and also bracing it. At the bottom, I put in some swivel wheels so I can move it around. Finally, I'll show you how everything went together. Here's a layout of my Santa Fe Northern Railroad that I designed. I've talked about this in a couple of earlier videos. Please see my playlist, the Santa Fe Northern, to check out the other videos. I built the baseboard from 4 sheets of foam board. The bottom layer was 2 inches thick and it used 2 sheets of the foam board, 2 inches thick. Here is a cutting diagram that I used to cut it. And here's the cutting diagram of the upper sheet. This was made out of 1-inch thick foam, and again I used 2 boards. Since I can't carry the large 4x8 sheets in my car, I set it up so that the big box store would deliver it. While I was at it, I ordered 1 10-foot 1x2 and 5 8-foot 1x2s to surround the layout. These were cut and glued to the lower level of the styrofoam of the foam board. And they serve 2 purposes. 1, to strengthen it, and 2, as a means of fastening the baseboard and the fascia when I get to that point. I tried 3 methods in attempts to get straight cuts on the foam board. To make the knife blade, I started out with a used saber saw blade, and I started to grind it down with a moto tool and a grinding wheel, and then finishing up with a with a metal file. Mark the correct distance on both sides of the board. Take into account the offset of the blade from the plate and screw the board to the foam temporarily. Then cut the foam using the board as a guide. The blade didn't cut quite through, so I just pushed it down to break it. Here's what it looks like when it's broken. Now let's move on to my second method, cutting with a hot rod cutter. About a year ago, I bought this set of hot tool cutters for foam. It consisted of a wire cutter, 3 rod cutters, and a power supply. I'm going to smooth up the edge with my hot glue cutter. It's supposed to be about 7 volts. We'll set it for 8. And here's what it looks like when it's cut. Moving on to assembly of the first layer. The trim boards were cut using a miter saw and a miter box to get square ends. I used a hot wire held against the board to give a straight edge. Two pilot holes, slightly smaller than the screws I used, were drilled to hold the two boards together. I countersunk the holes. Then I used strips of packing tape to hold the boards while I glued them. This shows several strips set up. I used a tube of liquid nails to glue the board to the foam. After sticking it in place, I pulled the tape strips up to hold it tightly. Then I fastened a second board in a similar fashion. I used more of the liquid nails to join the two styrofoam boards together. And I held them tightly with tape. I continued measuring and adding boards all around the table until everything was complete. Then I allowed it to set for a few days. Next, I built the table using 2x4 studs and 1x2 select pine strips of wood. The first job is to build 3 sets of legs. First, I cut 2 pieces of 1x2s to the required length. I had previously cut one of the 2x4s in half. I attached the 1x2s to it, squared it up, did the other side. I measured for the bottom piece and screwed it in place. Everything squared up nicely. I did a diagonal piece. Notice that I'm pre-drilling the top holes so the board doesn't split. I haven't mentioned this, but I did it for all these 1x2 boards. Then I cut off the boards. Finally, I measured the length of the 2x4s and cut them off to fit. And this set of legs was finished. I went ahead and built 2 further sets of legs to the required lengths. Here's another speeded up example of all the operations. Now it's time to assemble the final table. When I went to the big box store to buy lumber, they didn't have any decent 10-foot 1x2s, so I had to increase the length of the 8-foot 2x4s by a little bit. Here you see how I did that. Here I'm starting to put 2 of the legs together with a cross piece. Notice how I held the legs up with clamps on the lower right down there, so I didn't have to use two people to do this job. Rather than talk about the rest of the assembly, I'm just going to show you a bunch of photos showing the final results. I attached a locking swivel wheel to each of the 2x4s. For more photos of the entire assembly. Finally, I attached the 2-inch foam assembly made previously at the 4 corners using large screws and washers. So that's it for this video. I hope you got some hints on how to build a tabletop for your model railroad. If you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, Dean's N-Scale Trains. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it.